Hi! Here's the image, by the way. It's very good. How we doing, y'all? How we fucking freaking heckin' doing? I'm jamming. I'm fucking jamming. I'm vibing and jamming. You doing? That's pretty good. Well, folks, I'm very partial to today's chapter for reasons that will be entirely on brand for me. That'll make sense once you see. Let me put it this way. I'm predictable. Did I? I already forget what I said. I didn't. Wait. I never not catch the rhyme. I forget what I said. Oh no. Wow. Okay. I hope you recognize that when you say later, you mean way, 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 way later. I don't watch the VODs as soon as they're up like you do. Well, anyway, yes. If there was any fucking reason for people to be, like, speculating on what my favorite chapter is, I'm very, very predictable. It'll become quite apparent here in a moment. Well, here in a lot of moments. But, yeah. I'm feeling good, y'all. I'm feeling good. I'm excited. I no longer feel, worried about, the wonderful things I did to my voice on Friday. I'm no longer concerned about that. And, you know, jamming to good music, putting up the dance gif, you know how it be. Y'all, it's cold. I'm wearing a hoodie. It's cold here. And I live in the place that's known for being not cold. So that's weird and strange. I don't like the heat, so I accept this, but, like, it's weird. And also, I was very sleepy this morning. I didn't get out of bed until, like, noon or something. I don't remember, actually. I don't know if I looked at the clock when I got up. But yeah. That's where I'm at. You have comfy blanket crying face? Now I'm just picturing that as, I have comfy blanket. Well, folks, I'm just real excited for my own personal reasons. So, let's not delay any longer, huh? Let's get right into it. Welcome, one and all, to the 38th installment. 38th. Do you pronounce the T? I've asked this before, but no one answered. Do you pronounce the T in eighth? I'm pretty sure it goes both ways, so this is just like a personal preference poll, I guess. Do you like to, or do you not like to? Where's my chapstick? Anyway, today's the 38th installment of Your Words Destroyed My Planet, the stream series. If you are new here, welcome. I don't see you, but you may be there. My name is Harper, but you can call me KK. My pronouns are they, it. If you are new in Twitch chat, please read the rules, be chill, have a good time. I've recently learned that you can't post links. I didn't even know that. So, that's not in the rules, but that's something you get to know as well, I guess. What's going on is this. Your Words Destroyed My Planet by Unda is a million-word Homestuck fic that focuses on Dave Soulcat. It's an AU set in a future where Earth and Alternia have been consumed by a mysterious force, and humans and trolls have escaped on spaceships for their survival. As of now, it is currently unfinished, but don't be afraid. Be not afraid. Be glad. That doesn't rhyme with afraid. That's okay. In this stream series, I aim to read the entire fic out loud by myself, because I love it. I love doing this. I love it for this fic. I'm not planning on doing any more, except maybe my own fic if I ever finish it. But please take notes of the... Please take notes? No, you don't need to take notes. You need to take note, singular, of the tags on this fic, and be aware that you may be in for the discussion of some sensitive topics. You know, just a little heads up. If you ever need to not, that's okay. It will all be on the test. Damn! She stole the note! She took note! Yeah, that's extremely on brand. That's extremely on brand. Gosh, I wonder which of the three wrote this test. So yeah, if you would like to read back a much cleaner version of the the blurb that I just kind of said, you can type !fic about in chat. If you'd like a link to the fic itself on AO3, as I'm looking at it right here, right now. If you would like to subscribe to it, share it, save it for later, any of that kind of stuff, you can use !fic link to get a link to chapter 1. And then !fic song is a brief explanation of a very special feature of these streams, which is the pre-recorded song sequences. The command sadly cannot tell you which song is currently happening, but I know them. I know them. I know the titles of the songs. I know the titles of the songs. They're in my brain. It's okay. And then !fic sorry is just a couple of disclaimers / apologies, because I'm almost good at reading, but not quite. And I'm also deeply monolingual, much to my own chagrin. And so that is just me acknowledging that sometimes I will say shit weird. And sometimes the song sequence's narration goes very fast. And I'm sorry, and I'm doing my best. And if I were... I realized what the word that I was looking for was. Polish. I'm apologizing for a lack of polish. I'm deeply aware of the lack of polish, and I can see all the ways in which I could polish it. And I'm doing like a little sparkly finger wiggle thing every time I say the word polish. But if I took all the time to acknowledge all of the polish that I could do, then it would take 100 million years. And I don't have that kind of time. Or that kind of patience. I wanted to see this project actually reach the end. So, I needed to cut some corners. That's what Fixari is about. Okay. And finally, you can use !VODs, which is the only command that doesn't have the word fic in front of it, to get a link to my YouTube archive, where I will be putting every VOD for this series, as well as my other streams. And that is going to extend to, everything, pretty much. Mainly it's just this right now, because, you know how it be. But, if I ever decide to stream other things, then that would be the place for that as well. So I do try to put up the VODs pretty much right as soon as I'm done with stream. Pretty much as soon as I hit the stop button and, give myself a moment. The first thing I do is open up YouTube and start uploading it. So it's never that long of a wait. And if it ever is that long of a wait, for instance, I started the upload, but it wasn't done checking by the time I got bored and decided to do something else, and then I got distracted and walked away for a couple of hours, well, don't worry, because my dear beloved sibling Wander has an eye on that and will absolutely bother me about it. Guaranteed. So, it's taken care of. It's taken care of. Be not afraid. Be glad. Already said this. So, anyway. With all of that out of the way, there's nothing left for me to say except for welcome to Your Words Destroyed My Planet, Chapter 38. You wake up to the unexpected pleasure of Dave curled up against you in your bed. It takes a moment for you to mentally unwind your situation, but you get there. You had that hellish migraine yesterday. Dave and Carcat fixed you up, and you spent the evening chilling together as you recovered. The two of you convinced Carcat to stay, but... You should just stay, KK, you had told him. Hal took his bedding, though. Ugh. He can just sleep in one of our beds. Dave sighed. Sounds like you volunteered. You smiled meanly at Dave, who definitely pouted at that. I don't want to sleep with Dave, Carcat had yelled. Hurtful, David said immediately. Dave! Carcat snapped at him, and you'd winced because your head still hurt, and Carcat immediately looked guilty. Sorry, he'd whispered. It's fine, just stay here, you told him. Well, fine, but if anyone's going to, then it should be you and Dave sleeping together, Carcat had insisted. That's a lot more specific and explicit relationship meddling from you than I've had in the past, Karkat. Not sure what to say to that. David teased him, to which Karkat had responded by turning his back on Dave to just look at you. What I'm saying is that I don't want to... I'm sure neither of you want me to come between you, Karkat explained. Over his shoulder, you got to see Dave's face go through a whole series of expressions. First, him passing the double entendre that Karkat hadn't meant, and then him obviously about to voice that thought, but then it obviously hitting his imagination. You could see Dave picturing that incredibly clearly, from the, oh no, bad imagination, to definitely shouldn't be thinking that, and then somehow I am still thinking about it. That you didn't laugh then is something of a point of personal pride. The end result was that Dave wasn't in much of a state to stop Karkat from taking over his block, and so Dave slept with you, which is why you now have Dave in bed with you. It's not like you hadn't done this before to an extent, but now that you're together, it feels different. It feels... You don't know what the word is, but you lean in and kiss Dave on the forehead and get to watch him sleepily wake up to that. His hand that had been loosely against your chest tightens on your shirt. His eyes scrunch shut a little and then slowly open. You know that his eyes themselves are always focused, always seeing perfectly, but from the way his face changes, you can tell that it still takes his mind a moment to come online. Hey, you say softly. Dave pushes himself up on one elbow and turns until he can see his palm husk, then clumsily bats at the screen. A moment later, he rolls back towards you and wriggles closer under the covers, his head under your chin and one arm sliding around your back to pull you closer to him. Too early. I'm not getting up yet. You can't make me. Dave mumbles into your shirt. You crane your neck. It's not that much earlier than the time you'd have to get up for work. 15 minutes, maybe? I've got to get up at some point. I wasn't trying to make you get out of bed, though. I just wanted to kiss you. You tell him, and manage to kiss the top of his head again. A sleepy but happy noise comes from somewhere in the direction of Dave. It's hard to pinpoint exactly where, as he seems to be on a mission to plaster his entire body to yours, and it makes picking out the parts that separate the two of you tricky. Since you can, you decide that you're going to see what you're allowed to do here. Running your hands through his hair, migrating that down to his sides, really anywhere is good. It's not like this is one-sided either. Those are definitely Dave's hands underneath your shirt. When your alarm does go off, it startles you both, and you have to half climb over Dave to turn it off. When you've silenced the damn thing, you look down at Dave underneath you and can hardly believe that this is real. He's really here, in your bed, underneath you, and looking like he wishes your alarm hadn't interrupted things. This is so weird, Dave says quietly, his hands under your shirt ghosting over your grub scars. Me? You ask uncertainly. No, the whole thing with you. Like, I like this, but I don't really want to go further than this. Dave starts. I wasn't trying to... You begin, but Dave shakes his head. No, I know. We've got places to be, and we're taking it slow and all that. So, I don't. But also, I really do want it, he explains. Yeah, that conflicting responsibilities and smart decisions against, you start. Against the super new desire to be like, fuck building that ship and you going to work, instead try fucking my brains out. Yeah, that's new for me, Dave says with bright enthusiasm. Well, you could... Oh, no, sorry, boss. Still got that migraine and can't look at a screen, and I've got a second opinion that I should stay in bed all day. But, yeah, I know, it's hard. You agree, with a tremendous amount of willpower. Dave looks up at you, his expression mischievous. He's not saying anything, and... Right, the thing you just said. That was terrible, and what's worse is you made me think your shitty pun myself. I hate you. You inform him, and lean down to nip at his ear with your teeth, but not hard enough to do anything. This proves to be a tactical error, however, because it means that when Dave speaks next, it's right against your ear, so his words shudder through your whole being. I hate you too, Dave tells you, voice all rumbly from sleep, and... Oh, man. Okay, I need to get up and get ready for work, or I'm gonna start doing dumb things. You say through gritted teeth and haul yourself out of bed. It's me. I'm dumb things, Dave says, completely deadpan. You whip your pillow out from under his head and drop it on his face in retaliation for that. You're not sure that he's properly sorry for what he did, but the pillow does muffle his laughter at least. You pull your shirt off, and then instead of dropping it on the floor, you take the chance to fling it at Dave's face, where it basically unfolds itself on contact to look the maximum amount of stupid. You love it. So, I was thinking about something, and I know this might be a weird thing to ask, and I get it if you'd want to say that you're not okay with it, or that you would be, but you'd just want to wait or something. You start. What direction is this conversation going exactly? Dave asks in a slightly tense voice. You look around and see Dave watching you with a certain amount of wariness on his face, but you also see his eyes dart over you since you're shirtless at the moment. You're going to put his expression down in cautious but interested. Thinking back on it, I can see how that sounded like I was about to bring up some really niche kink or something, but that I'd not mentioned until now. You say slowly. Yeah, a little bit. He nods. Not where I was going with that. You tell him. I'm gonna say that I'm relieved about that since, new to the game, so might maybe try out the core playstyles before leaping into DLC. Dave says. I'm not sure if that metaphor is pandering to me or if it's just because you're also a video game nerd, but whatever. I had a point. The point was that since Hal's not here, would you be opposed to us asking Carcat to move in? You ask. Okay, 2 things. Dave starts. Now you're definitely pandering. You interrupt. No, I'm not. You don't have a monopoly on a whole number. Shut up. First of all, are you asking me this when you're shirtless for some kind of tactical advantage? Dave asks, pointing at your half-dressed state. No, and honestly, I'm still getting used to the idea that this would have any kind of tactical advantage on you. But I need to put a shirt on anyway, so I'll do that. You say, and turn back to your wardrobe to pick a shirt out. You'd think you'd just catch Dave mumbling, I didn't say you had to put one on, to himself, but you elect to ignore it. Fine then. The second thing. Is everyone under the impression that I hate Carcat or something? I know he was involved in the whole situation where we left him unattended for a few weeks and he blew my life up and started a revolution, but I don't hate the guy. We're friends. I might snap at him when he does dumb and dangerous shit, and yeah, we were a little rough early on, but he's my friend. He's one of my oldest and closest friends. Is that not something that everyone else knows? Why would I be against him living here? Dave demands, honestly sounding a little hurt. I didn't think you hated him, but I can also see why you might not want to live with the guy after that, even if you are happy to hang out with him and have him over. That's a different level of being around someone, Not to mention that we're together, and, there's stuff with me and Carcat, so you might not be okay with the 2 of us living together. Not to mention, you're not a fan of moving in general, and on top of that, it'd be an asshole move to invite him to live with us without asking you, don't you think? You point out. Okay, well, in order. I'm fine with living with him. Also, I wouldn't care if you did go off and get all pale with Carcat. I'd want to know, but it doesn't bother me. The only one with a problem with that is Carcat, as far as I know. And even if that ended up in a it's me or him situation that make that basically cheating, I think a little more highly of you than to think that the only thing stopping you from ditching me for Carcat is geographic proximity. And lastly, I'm not a fan of me having to move, but since no one's gonna make me leave here now, I don't mind if Carcat moves in or not, since it doesn't change my deal with being able to stay here. Dave argues. Well, good. Also, yeah, I wouldn't break us up just because Carcat happened to be nearby. I know you said you know that, but I kind of feel like I need to restate that since you brought it up. You tell him. I'm pretty sure that if I had that little trust in you, that I wouldn't find you attractive in the first place, so yeah, we're good. Dave says, and you realize that as he was talking, he'd absently folded up your pajama shirt that you tossed at his face. You don't even think he knows he's done it. I don't think he's gonna go back to his hive is all, and sleeping on Cancre's lounge plate clearly isn't the answer to that. Now that Hal's gone, it seemed like a good solution to the problem. You say, and psionically pick up your jeans that you wore the other day. You need to get new clothes soon.
It is. It'd make the whole training thing easier, too, if you were both here the whole time. I'm all for it. I'll even help him pack if he wants. I just need to know if that's what I'm doing or not, because otherwise I'm doing construction for the Carapacian ship.
He agrees with a nod.
Cool. You nod. Cool. Ask him whenever and let me know.
Dave says. Will do. You say. The two of you stay where you are, you with the rest of your clothes for the day in hand, and Dave still in your bed. Then all at once his spine straightens and his eyes go wide.
Wait, I need to leave so you can... right, yeah, going.
Dave says in a slightly strangled voice and leaps from your bed and out of your respite block. It's funny when you consider that the two of you have changed in close proximity plenty of times now, thanks to all the sailor stuff, but being alone together with him in your bed clearly alters the context of that. You can't help but enjoy the fact that he's left his palm husk behind in his hasty exit. You get changed reasonably quickly and go out into the main room to find a slightly alarmed-looking Karkat standing there straightening out his sweater.
Why did Dave just sprint out of your block like that?
Karkat asks, one thick eyebrow raised at you.
Because he's a dumbass,
you say, affectionately.
That does check out with all of my information. Carry on, then.
Karkat snorts, tugging at the cuffs of his sweater. Anyway, you should move in with us, you tell him.
What?
Karkat balks, looking up at you with wide eyes. I said you should move in with us. Hal's moved back in with his dad for good now, so we've got the room spare. It'd make it easier to learn all this spooky shit. Also, I live here, and that's obviously all the selling points you could ever need. You list off.
I can't live here! What about Dave?
Karkat demands.
What the fuck, man?
Dave says, opening the ablution block door to lean out. He looks like he's halfway through shaving, if the soap on half of his face is any clue. Dave already said it was okay, and also that he was kind of offended that everyone seems to think he hates you. Also, Dave, were you eavesdropping? You ask, turning from Karkat to Dave.
No, Karkat's just got a voice that can pierce the vacuum of space, let alone this door.
Dave scoffs and steps back inside the ablution block.
Sound doesn't travel through the vacuum of space. That's basic physics. Also, fuck you.
Karkat snaps at him.
No sound but your voice. When you actually pick a call sign like I keep telling you to do, you should put it as like megaphone or something. That'd work. Heard all the way through space.
Dave says from inside the ablution block. That sounds fake, but I don't know enough about physics to be sure. You say, pretending like you're thinking very deeply about this fake problem.
And this is why we were supposed to study in school, dumbass. Anyway, are you really... You can't want to live with me, surely.
Karkat says uneasily. You hear the splashing of water from inside the ablution block, and when Dave emerges, still rubbing his face dry with a towel, he gives Karkat a flat look.
I'm so glad I have you here to tell me what I want. Except, no, I'm not. I thought we sorted this shit out. Why does it keep not staying sorted? We're friends. It makes stuff easier. You helped me out with Jade, and yesterday with Solix, too. Besides, I like living with more people, and if you're around, then Solix has more people to talk to in person than just me, and there's less of a chance I'm gonna drive him nuts.
Dave points out. I think the chance of you driving me nuts is the same. It'd just give me a fun and new chance for Karkat to also drive me nuts in person. You interject.
You say drive like you're not already there.
Karkat snorts, and Dave snickers in amusement.
Look, see? It'd be cool. You can't live on Cancre's lounge plank forever, and if you can't face packing up your hive on your own, I can totally do that with you, or for you. I packed up Solix's stuff right after his breakup, and that wasn't traumatic at all, aside from him telling me that we weren't really friends and crushing my heart,
Dave says and sniffs dramatically.
You didn't!
Karkat gasps and stares at you in horror.
Look, in my defense...
You realize there's no answer you can give there that makes you look good, which means that switching tracks is your only hope here.
In my defense, that never happened, and David is a filthy liar. I am so sorry about him.
Karkat apologizes to Dave. It's fine. I made him like me enough to be my friend for real and then date me, so, checkmate, Captor. Dave grins at you. That's a very elaborate long-term con, you point out.
Nothing but the best for you. Or the worst. Whichever. Dave says and shrugs.
I wouldn't want to get in the way of this, though.
Carquette says softly, looking at you and Dave right as you are pitchly bickering back and forth. It doesn't seem like you're in the way of anything, you point out. Besides, it's not like I'm planning on picking the lounge plank as my location of choice for him to... Dave starts. Dave? You say quickly as you cut him off. Maybe don't finish that sentence. Right. These inside thoughts that I've heard so much about. Whatever. Point is, I'm not going to be doing anything that obviously make you uncomfortable. Rose used to live here and had Kanaya over, and general hivemate rules of decency meant that no one had to see anyone else get to, 8th base on the lounge plank. Dave points out. 8th base? Did you just invent extra bases? You ask him incredulously. Let's not get a Strider Sports explanation going. I'm dragging this conversation back on track, okay? I can't say I'm thrilled about having to move at all, but I can't stay where I am, and you're right that this is a smart choice for several reasons, and it's not as if I think you two are offering but hoping I'll say no, so if you two really are okay with it, then it seems like it'd be a good idea. Carquette says. He looks uncertain and uneasy, like he often is when he's accepting help. Which is dumb, because he offers to help people all the time, but the moment he needs real help in an emotional crisis, he can get funny about it. Like, he thinks he's being a burden for needing help for a change. You've just about trained him out of it with you, but now that it's both you and Dave, it's evident that it's come back. Obviously, I'm full of good ideas. Dave beams. You're full of something, Carquette retorts, and earns himself Dave's mock offended face. Yes, good ideas. Anyway, when do you want to move your stuff in? I'm only asking because I can help and get the very useful trolley and boxes thing to do that, so knowing when would be helpful. I'm not asking because I have some deep-seated love of scheduling things. He says. I've got work today, but if you want me to help after, I can. You offer. Yeah, with 3 people that'll go faster, and I think this is a rip-it-off-quick kind of situation. We can meet there after your shift, does that work? Carquette asks, looking from you to Dave. That'll work. I guess I'm gonna work on the ship until then. Dave nods. Well, will you look at that. You started the day with your partner in bed with you. You got to make out with him for a bit. Now you've got Carquette to move in with you, and you have a solid plan that everyone is on board with. Really, everything's going your way today, isn't it? You finish getting ready for work and leave Carquette on your lounge plank, definitely not chasing up a few HR problems for people. Definitely not helping people out when he's meant to not be working. You're in such a fantastic mood that you even catch yourself humming one of the songs from that movie you had on repeat yesterday. You literally float into work and drop into your chair with a smile that you just can't repress. Hal gives you a weird look, but he's on a call with your boss, so he can't say anything about it. You hum happily to yourself and read over the notes from the shift you missed yesterday, so you know what you're doing today, and you're pretty pleased to see how much progress has been made. Hal comes over to you a few minutes later as you're quietly singing to yourself and reading over some of the added code. It's not how you would have done it, but it actually looks like it'll work no problem, so that's great too. Okay, are you high, or is there some pod somewhere where the real Solix has been shoved and this is a terrifyingly chipper body double sent out to steal my brain or something? Hal asks you suspiciously. I deny being the double, but... You start. That'd be a little off-brand for you, no? Hal interrupts, and you laugh. He beat you to your own joke. Yeah. Anyway, I'm fine now. Migraine is all gone now, and I'm good. Sorry for bailing on you, but I literally couldn't even see properly. You apologize. It's fine. So, yeah, well, let me catch you up, Hal says, slightly suspiciously. He goes over everything your boss said, which was essentially an update on when you can start rolling out the proper antivirus, now that it's been tested on several devices by your team and you've managed to work out the exploding thing. You think. Your boss had been picking an isolated group to test on first, and of course everyone on the ship wants this fixed, but no one wants to be the first people signed up for that. What that means is that you and Hal have to get hold of that team and properly assess what they're working with, make sure all their stuff is backed up in case of explosions, and then go and apply the antivirus to it all. It's a bunch of data and admin work, which really isn't your favorite thing, but hey, at least it means that it's going out. You and Hal settle down into that task together, with Hal writing out all of the information you're going to give to people and updating his answering program, and you doing the data stuff.
Okay, seriously, what is your deal?
Hal demands after an hour. What? You say, looking up from your work.
I've never seen you this happy in all the time I've known you. Not without it being a sadistic delight at someone else's suffering kind of happy. Like that time when that guy tried to blame us for making the upload system hard to use and then uploaded his own nudes onto the department website because he specifically did the thing we told him not to do.
Hal says. That was amazing. You grin. Oh, the delicious schadenfreude of that had delighted you for days. It was a big headache for HR, but that was entirely not your problem. And not Carcat's personally either, which was a bonus.
Okay, but this isn't that. You're not happy because someone did something dumb that we warned them not to and it blew up in their face like Karma's own personal money shot. You're just happy.
What? Hal points out, and you grimace a little at that analogy. Can I not be happy? I mean, part of it is definitely that Carcat's moving in since you moved out, and I would give you shit about abandoning us and make you feel guilty just to be an asshole about it, but I heard about why, and that's fair. But yeah, Carcat's moving in, and he's not tangled up with Gamzee anymore, so that's pretty great. You tell him.
So if that's part of it, then what's the rest?
Hal asks, glossing over the whole bro thing. You're not really sure if you should say so. You're not really sure if you should say, so you make a vague kind of noise and stare at your screen again. Which is a mistake. You know that from being around Rose. They can just sense secrets in that family.
Now I have to know. It can't be work. You've already ruled out Carcat, so...
Hal trails off, trying to lean around to see your face, even as you're focused on your screen. I'm just really, really happy is all, you say, and you can't fight the smile off of your face no matter how hard you try.
Is this...
Hal hesitates. You try not to look at him.
This is a... Wait, we're alone, right?
Hal asks, his tone shifting serious for a moment. That makes you turn away from your screen. You look around the room and up at the ceiling. You even close your eyes for a moment to try to feel if anything is weird like it was before with Bro. But there's nothing as far as you can tell. We're alone, you tell him. Hal nods and then looks at you intently. You get the feeling that he's choosing his words very carefully.
Don't read anything into this, but you said before you'd already talked to Dave. Was that...
Hal says, and you realize that he's trying not to tell you about Dave's feelings and intentions in case you don't know. Or he's not trying to give away what Dave told him. He doesn't know that you know about that. Fuck it, he basically already knows anyway, and he and Dave are on good terms, so yeah. Besides, you're not being subtle. You can just catch Dave up on it later. If you don't tell him, Hal is going to guess for sure. We're dating now. You can't tell anyone, but it worked out. You beam.
Holy shit, that was way faster than I thought it'd happen, if at all.
Hal gasps. Wait, hey. You don't have time to put up much protest because Hal is somewhat unexpectedly hugging you.
Oh, I'm really happy for you two,
Hal says finally when he pulls back with a smile on his face. Me too. You agree.
Yeah, man, I know. You're radioactively happy right now,
he says, shaking his head. He's probably right. It works so well, you know? I know it's all new and everything, but you can't help but smile. How could you do anything else when you can remember what it was like to wake up with Dave this morning? And it's not just that you're allowed to do that, or allowed to touch him or kiss him. It's that Dave wants that. He wants you. Not just that, but he doesn't have a problem with the whole Karkat thing at all. He trusts that you're not gonna ditch him for Karkat. It's all so perfect.
You are completely done, aren't you? You got that romance brain rot going on.
Hal laughs at you, poking you in the forehead with his finger. I've probably lost half my think sponge to this, yeah. It's just occupied thinking about how much I like him, that even with half a think sponge left, I'm still smarter than most people. You snort.
And so modest, too,
Hal says. You seem okay about this. I know humans are funny sometimes about family, and I'm sure you don't want details, but it's not like either of us thought this would ever happen, so now that it has, are we okay? You ask uncertainly.
Hey, as long as he's happy, then I'm happy. I still definitely don't want to hear details because that is my baby brother, and there's things I do not want to know. But what, are you expecting me to threaten you here? Pull the old, if you ever hurt him, I'll kind of deal?
Hal asks. You shrug. Aren't cliches sometimes cliches for a reason?
You have unstoppable brain lasers, and Dave has spooky ghost powers and can apparently dropkick someone outside of the ship with them if he wants. I'm pretty sure I can't do anything to you, and even if I could, it's pretty obvious Dave way outclasses me there. Besides, I like you, which you obviously know since we dated first.
Hal grins. I was your fake date, a date which blew up my last relationship, if you remember. You snap at him.
And if I hadn't done that, then you and Dave wouldn't be together now. You're welcome,
Hal says with a smug look on his face. You're not taking credit for that, you say flatly.
All part of my master plan,
Hal says slyly, sitting down in his seat and stretching back in it so he can fold his hands behind his head. You couldn't plan your way out of a wet paper bag, you accuse him.
Or is that what I want you to think?
Hal replies. You sigh and get your palm husk out. So, Hal knows about us. I wasn't subtle, apparently. I blame you.
Oh, wow, what did you do? Did you knee slide into the room being like,
guess who started their day with makeouts, bitches? No, I floated in singing to myself and was, and I quote, radioactively happy.
Haha, you like me.
I have terrible taste. Hal is insufferable, so on a scale of no, don't do that to that'd be sick, where do you stand on me sticking him to the ceiling all day?
It depends on if you send me a picture. But don't you also need him to do work with you?
I could levitate his machine, too.
Pixar didn't happen.
Dave says I can stick you to the ceiling if I send him a picture. You tell Hal flatly.
And then you'd have to do all the work by yourself,
Hal points out. Yeah, Dave mentioned that too. You sigh.
See? All according to my plan.
He grins. You do eventually unstick him from the ceiling. After about half an hour. And several pictures. The point is that your day continues to go great. The whole antivirus rollout goes smoothly with your test group. After a certain amount of bitching and protesting on their part, it all seems to be holding fine. You're able to pick out the next group that you want to work with and get that set up for your coworkers that come after you. You even get out of work on time, and you're able to get over to Karkat's place just fine, even if you end up quietly singing as you walk down the hallway towards him. You just got Dave. Why are you singing that you're just a poor boy and nobody loves you? Karkat asks you incredulously as you get closer. Okay, maybe you weren't singing exactly as quietly as you thought. Got a song stuck in my head is all. No Dave yet? You ask. He's obviously not outside with the two of you, but he could be in there, but then it'd be weird for Karkat to be out here if that was the case. Not yet. I can't say I'm eager to get in there, though, so I'm not going to complain about waiting. Karkat admits with a sigh. You'll be okay, you tell Karkat gently, and get your claws in his sweater lightly enough to tug him closer to you, lightly enough that it's a suggestion at best. Karkat still moves closer to you, though, rests his head on your chest, and wraps his arms around your waist. I know it's just stuff, Karkat says in a small voice.
That was 10 years of my life with him, and it's all in there, and I have to... I know what that's like, you say sympathetically. Are you going to say it's not as bad as I think it's going to be? Karkat asks hopefully, though from the tight hold he still has around your middle, you don't think he believes it. No, it's gonna suck, but at least with 2 people helping you, it'll go a lot faster. Oh, speaking of, you say, as you catch sight of, coming down the corridor, at speed, is Dave, riding on his moving trolley thing, with Matuna on it with him. You can hear Matuna's excited yelling, and watch as Dave somehow gets the trolley to jump up in the air a little. You wonder to yourself if Dave has figured out how to make this thing that definitely doesn't have brakes stop. He tries to stop it with his foot, but that, predictably, doesn't work. It's not that you're not there to catch him if he looks like he's actually going to hurt himself. Of course he'd stop that. But you're entirely willing to watch the outcome of Dave acting like an idiot. In this case, that would be him failing to brake properly with one foot, which makes the trolley veer wildly and slam into the wall of Karkat's hive. Holy shit, that was fucking sick! Do it again! Matuna yells in delight, oblivious or uncaring as to how the sudden stop folded Dave over the bar of the trolley like a wet towel hung up to dry. You know, when I was told I'd have to do sailor training, I was so intimidated. They're all so strong and smart, so coordinated, and all of them have these amazing reflexes. And now, you say, with a sweeping wave in Dave's direction. He does have all of those things, in fairness. You just never mentioned having more impulse control than a 9-year-old, Karkat says flatly. Dave unfolds himself with a wheeze and glares at you both before looking at the still very excited Matuna.
Forget them, Matuna. They don't understand us and how cool we are. In fact, I can tell you for sure that you are the coolest captor,
Dave tells him sincerely. No shit, of course I am! Matuna cackles and then points at you. Outright, motherfucker! What? You're dating me! You can't say he's cooler! You protest, and Matuna goes, ooh, like he's the audience in a scandalous talk show.
Unrelated. It's okay. I still want to date you, even if you're the least cool captor.
Dave smiles. Oh, and he's down to 3rd place! Matuna laughs at you. Can you believe this shit? You ask Karkat, hoping for backup. Karkat looks up at you and gently places his hand on your arm. Somehow you know this isn't going to be sincere or helpful. Who told you that you were cool? Tell me who it was so I can have a talk about giving people unrealistic expectations, Karkat says, oh so sincerely. Wow, you say slowly as you look from Karkat to Dave. Fuck both of you. You wish, Matuna snorts. Tuna! You shout as Karkat choke laughs. Not sorry, bye! Your Dancester says in a rush and dives through the floor. What an asshole. You missed him, sure, but he's still an asshole.
What'd he say?
Dave asks. He said you wish, Karkat answers before you can tell him that it's nothing. Dave's expression flickers thoughtful for a moment, but thankfully Karkat doesn't notice. He's too busy unlocking his hive door and laughing. Man, I really missed having Matuna around. Thanks for the distracting entrance, Dave. At least we can... Karkat freezes in the open door to his hive. You wince. The reality of it must have broken back in again. You share a look with Dave, who is suddenly serious, and the 2 of you move to follow Karkat. But as soon as you get to the open doorway as well, you see what stopped him. The place is a mess. It's not like someone trashed it exactly, but it doesn't look right at all. What? No. No. Karkat mutters and hurries inside. What's... Dave asks quietly as Karkat wrenches cupboards open and stares inside. Okay, is that an uh-oh in terms of... Okay, is that a connectivity uh-oh? Because I didn't get a desktop thing. Okay, we have any dropped frames, but not a lot, and it looks okay right now. Okay. As long as you promise that we're okay, then I'm gonna keep talking. Okay. A short audio uh-oh. Okay. Well, things look stable right now, so hopefully it stays that way. Everything's moved, or you start. Gamzee's stuff is gone! Karkat shouts and vanishes into his respite block. You and Dave share a wary look and step inside, shutting the door behind you so anyone else walking past doesn't see or hear any of this.
Did Gamzee move out first?
Dave asks under his breath. I guess so, but that's more organized than I'd have given him credit for, you say softly, as you start noticing the absence of oversized clothing over chairs or big shoes by the door.
Sailors, man. We're good at packing up our shit and leaving in a hurry,
he reminds you. All his things are gone! Karkat yells, coming back into the room. At least picking your stuff out'll be easier to do, I guess, you say as you shoot for hopeful and reassuring. He can't just move out like that. Where's he going to live? Karkat shouts as he paces the room.
Oh, he said he'd be moving in with Tavros. He didn't say it was this soon, though,
Dave says casually, unaware of you and Karkat staring at him. How do you know that? You ask him.
He mentioned it in the balancer chat, the one I'll add you to when Karkat comes up with a name. I didn't think it was a big deal,
Dave says as self-awareness finally kicks in and he looks uneasily at Karkat. I know he's staying with Tavros right now, like I was staying with Cancri, but he can't live there for good. Tavros has only got one respite block and one bed. I went to his hive warming, Karkat argues.
I didn't ask him for details about it. Maybe he's putting his stuff in storage and the two of them are on alternating shifts or having like a bro time sleepover until Gamzee gets a for real place or whatever. I wasn't hiding it from you. I didn't think about it. It wasn't my business,
Dave says in a concerned rush, like throwing more words on this problem is going to help. You know what Karkat is actually afraid of here, that Gamzee replaced him in a matter of weeks, that what they had didn't really mean anything after all that time. Karkat's afraid that Gamzee has parted from him and walked into someone else's arms without a thought, someone that you're all friends with, no less. You can see it, too. Gamzee and Tavros always clicked when Gamzee was calm. You wouldn't be completely stunned if it turned out that they had got together. That doesn't make it hurt any less for Karkat, though. Look, if you want to talk to Gamzee later and ask him instead of speculating, you can, but we've got to get this done first. You tell Karkat calmly, and walk over to grab him by the shoulders.
In fact, if Gamzee's stuff is all gone, then me and Solix could just box all this shit up for you if you can't deal with it. I get it, if you couldn't do it after I dumbly threw that curveball at you,
Dave adds quietly, his expression remorseful and full of guilt. It's not your fault, Karkat tells him, shaking his head slowly.
I mean, I get it. I know I'm good now with the Jade thing, but I really wasn't when it happened. Solix can back me up on that, right? I was a goddamn wreck. You're allowed to be messed up by this. That's the whole reason I wanted to help, because the whole facing the end of something thing sucks ass, and having help is way better than doing it alone, Dave says earnestly. He looks at you for backup, and you nod. He was pretty destroyed by it. I was with Aradia, too. You agree. I know. Thank you, both of you, really. Karkat gestures around at the half-gutted remains of a decade of relationship around him with a lost expression on his face. I can't make it better, but I can pack boxes. Want me to start?
Dave offers. Yeah. I don't think I can do the respite block, though. Karkat mumbles.
On it.
Dave nods sharply, and he's off, several boxes in hand and a quickly shut door behind him. You're starting to learn that about Dave, that if there's a problem that has a practical solution to it, he's way better at dealing with that than any other option. Not that you can blame him there, or that you're implying he's some emotionless husk or anything. Karkat's the friend that'll bring you ice cream and help you talk through your feelings. Dave is more likely to pack your boxes for you so you don't have to and give you a place to live. You kind of need both, and since Dave has one covered, you should get the second.
Reaching out for Karkat, you pull him into a hug, snuggling him safely under your chin, with one hand in his hair and the other rubbing gently at his back. His hands grip the front of your shirt tightly, and the slight tremble in his body is strong enough that you can feel it, even if you don't mention it. "You'll be okay," you whisper to him, and softly kiss the rounded shape of the small horn closest to you. Gamzee would never have been okay with that, but it doesn't matter now. "It sucks, but you've got us. You don't have to stay here," you add.
It's like it all meant nothing. Like I wasted everyone's time with my stupid fucking romance.
Karkat sobs into your shirt, the sound muffled a little by the fabric. "That's not true. It meant a lot to you, and he's nowhere near as nuts and awful as he used to be," you point out, willing to admit that much. You're not going to say that you think Gamzee was good for Karkat, because you don't think that, but you do know Gamzee improved thanks to him, and Karkat was happy being with him most of the time. You're not about to deny any of that.
"But if he could just do this, then what?"
Karkat demands, pulling back and tearfully waving a hand at the room. "You don't know why he did it, and you were coming here to move out anyway. If he beat you to it by a day or two, what does it matter? You wanting to move doesn't mean that none of it meant anything, right?" You tell him.
"That's different!"
Karkat snaps.
"How?"
You say slowly.
"Fuck you, it just is!"
Karkat sniffs, scrubbing at his face with his sleeves. "Okay, well, if you're gonna live in the swearing and contradictions phase of dealing with this, then I think I'm gonna go pack some stuff for you until you can be reached by reason," you tell him flatly, and go to grab one of the remaining boxes.
"I will never be reached by reason. Kiss my entire ass!"
Karkat huffs and falls backwards onto the lounge plank. You ignore him and start assembling your box. "Do you think I should take the lounge plank? I mean, Dave already has one, but this is bigger. It's a nice one," Karkat says from his place on the cushions. "I don't know. Ask him." You shrug and pick a shelving unit to start packing. "I guess we couldn't take it back today anyway, even if we decided to. No way Dave's trolley can take this," Karkat adds. You roll your eyes, and behind you, Karkat shrieks. Perhaps it's because the lounge plank that he's on just shot up in the air by about 5 feet. Perhaps by those psionic powers that he's apparently forgotten that you have.
Okay, we can take it back if we want it. Put me down gently!"
Karkat shouts at you, and because you're merciful and might want that lounge plank later, you do put the whole thing down gently. Your palm husk pings with a message from Dave.
Now, I would never be so mean as to throw away Karkat's clothes when he came to us for help. I just want to get that out there. But I am very tempted to pack away his normal clothes in a somewhat hard-to-find way and only leave him with the excellently designed shirts and sweaters we've made him over the years.
That's just adding insult to injury.
Yeah, you're right. Maybe that's too mean.
I didn't say don't do it. Dave, I can hear you laughing evilly from the other room. That doesn't bode well, Karkat observes as he gets to his feet in an attempt to escape levitating furniture. It's Dave. How much trouble can he get into unsupervised? You ask cheerfully, and Karkat pulls a face. He's not really wanting to throw stones here, given what he got up to when you last left him alone for any long period of time. I'd go in there and check, but I don't want to be in there, Karkat sighs. Makes sense. Go be useful and pack up your ablution block. I don't want to go around touching things in a room where I know Gamzee has been naked. You order Karkat. Karkat grits his teeth and sucks a breath in, not quite meeting your gaze. His whole pose is very, awkward, should I say? And you're not having that. Nope. You're just fucking with me, and don't tell me otherwise. I don't want the visual. Go away! You say loudly, and firmly face the cupboard that you're dealing with, so Karkat can't cause you any more psychic turmoil. Karkat does leave with a box, and you get to packing up Karkat's things. Some things that Gamzee has left behind, you're not really sure if they're Gamzee or Karkat's, and you end up putting some things into a box and others into a pile by the box. It's only when Dave comes past with 2 stacked up boxes that you realize how little progress you've made. When this was your hive that you were packing up, the slow speed was understandable. You were emotional, and of course you'd be slower at packing than Dave, since for you, every item was sentimental. Not so much when it's Karkat stuff. You stare as Dave leaves and returns with another 2 full boxes and starts rifling through the flattened boxes. How are you so much faster at this than me? You ask him, and he pauses to look over at you.
Practice? Also, you're sorting and not packing. When Karkat unpacks all this shit, he can decide if he's keeping it or if it needs to go to Gamzee after all. You're not supposed to look over all this stuff, just slot it in the box in a way that doesn't break things and uses the space most efficiently. It's like Tetris,
Dave tells you, and you eye the separated pile of stuff. Yeah, I guess I wouldn't know what he wants or doesn't want as well as he does. You nod.
I'd only ask if it was something that's obviously broken. Even then, it might be sentimental, but it could also just be trash. Otherwise, in a box,
Dave advises you. You nod, and with that, Dave leaves the room with his flattened and empty boxes, and you resolve to try to catch up to his speed. You don't manage it, of course. Dave is done with Karkat's respite block and has moved into the main room with you before you're more than 4 boxes deep. Between the two of you, things get done pretty quickly, and Karkat comes out of the ablution block once with a box, but then vanishes again. When you and Dave have nothing left to pack, you venture in there to find him, which leaves you with the sight of Karkat sat on the floor teary-eyed with a slightly dented makeup brush in hand. You can't really decipher what he said about it, since he was so wobbly with tears, but you think he was telling you that he found it under the counter. It's clearly Gamzee's at any rate. Dave subtly jerks his head at you, and you take the hint to remove Karkat from the room and calm him down so Dave can finish packing up at light speed. All told, the whole hive only took a little shy of 2 hours, which seems like a weirdly short amount of time for how long Karkat lived here. You can't remember how long it took with your place. It felt like it was over far too soon, and also took an agonizing lifetime. Dave does agree to take the lounge plank, which means that you have to take a circuitous route back to your place alone, levitating a large piece of furniture through whatever spaces you can find that'll fit it. When you get back, Dave and Karkat are already there. In fact, when you open the door, you find that Karkat has Dave in a tight and tearful hug, the kind that makes Dave give you a look that cries for help. I really appreciate it. Karkat sniffles against his chest.
It's fine, man. Don't cry,
Dave says nervously, awkwardly patting Karkat's back. Having angled the lounge plank through the door awkwardly, turning it around in midair to get it through the door, you set it down in what free space you can find. Someone, probably Dave, has pushed the old lounge plank against the far wall, but Karkat and Dave are kind of standing in the way of where it should go. As you put it down, Karkat pulls away from Dave and looks at you tearfully. In one hand, he's got some clothes and things, which he holds out a little for you to see. You put out pajamas and my toothbrush and clean clothes for tomorrow so I don't have to unpack, Karkat tells you, his voice getting higher and more emotional with every word. Yeah, Karkat's clearly too emotional right now, and even Dave's thoughtfulness is pushing him over into ugly cry level of intensity, and clearly Dave has no idea how to handle that or what he's supposed to do about it. You're not trying to imply that Dave's family is unemotional. They're very obviously not. But they're not emotional in the way that Karkat is, and Dave had a hard enough time when he was emotional. Which means that Karkat's very open expression of emotional pain is probably really far out of Dave's wheelhouse of things he knows how to fix. He can be thoughtful or give Karkat a hug, but that's just making Karkat more emotional, so he doesn't know what to do. You need to intervene. Hey, Dave, could you go make Karkat's bed for him? You suggest.
Yep. Yeah, I could do that, okay.
Dave says in a rush. He leaves so fast, you swear there's almost an after-image of him in the air for a second. Gently, you take Dave's helpfully separated things from Karkat's hands and place them on the stack of boxes, and then pull Karkat into your room. It's not that you're hiding from Dave or anything, but this'll probably go easier if you're not sitting on the lounge plank that Karkat and Gamzee shared, if you're not next to the boxes of all of his things. At least your respite block is your space with your things in it. Also, it means that Dave doesn't have to hide in Karkat's new block for fear of walking in on an emotional conversation. You sit him down on the bed with you and pull him close to you so he can cry for a bit and bleed off some of that emotional tension before you can even take a stab at helping him untangle all of this. Now that he's not trying to suppress it and hold himself together, the tears pass reasonably quickly, leaving Karkat exhausted and emotionally raw. He shudders a little and wraps his arms around himself, like he can make himself smaller. If he could just leave that soon, that it obviously didn't mean anything, Karkat whispers. We talked about that, you point out. Yeah, I was ready to move today as well, so obviously it didn't mean that much to me either, he says. He sniffs, wiping at his face. That wasn't where you thought that was going. I obviously just wasted everyone's time, and obviously the whole thing was doomed from the start, and you were right, and he was terrible for me, and I was terrible for him, and we never should have done it. Karkat spits out bitterly, clearly angry at himself instead of you. Okay, that's a lot, you say. Tell me I'm wrong, he argues. Okay, you're wrong, you shrug. Oh, fuck off, Karkat snaps. Fine, I never said you were terrible for him, and I also never said you were doomed from the start. Your whole thing with him did something for the both of you. Just because me and Gamzee never liked each other doesn't mean that you were doomed. And, okay, yeah, maybe things could have ended sooner, but that doesn't mean they shouldn't have ever started, you say, trying to be rational about this. You never liked that I was with him, Karkat accuses you, and you know this pattern. He feels emotional. You're here and you're a safe person, so he's going to lash out at you. Then, in about 5 minutes, he'll be crushed under his own guilt for doing it. You have your own patterns of being in a shitty mood, being an asshole to him, then regretting it. It doesn't mean anything now, so it barely registers. Yeah, I thought that you did everything for him, and he got loads of benefits from being with you, and he didn't give you anywhere near enough back. I'm not even going to go into the whole thing about hiding that whole balancer shit, because I was with AA, so I've not got anything to say about how that goes with relationships. Gamzee had every reason to be with you, and no matter how little I liked you and him being together, you're not stupid. You liked being with him, and you wouldn't have stayed that long if you didn't. That's not a waste of time. Why do you... You were about to say, why do you keep saying that, when you realize it's not Karkat that you've heard that from before. Dave was the one who had been worried that his orientation not being what he'd thought meant that he'd wasted Jade's time in being with her. That because he wasn't into her in the way that she was into him, it meant that she didn't get anything from their relationship, as if it meant that they hadn't loved each other deeply. It's the same damn thought. Dave's whole angle for this thought is that he didn't feel how he was supposed to, but Karkat is coming at it from the angle that he and Gamzee had just both been half-assing their relationship and coasting it, so because of that, it had all been a waste of time. It's not like you can say that you didn't wonder how much of your relationship with AA had gone on after the pity had gone, but that's more that you want to know its time of death. You were happy with her, even on the day that you broke up. You still love her, but it's the familiar way you love someone after years with them. A hive mate, an old friend, someone you love, even if it's not someone you pity anymore. So much of being with someone romantically is that other stuff, and it was still good. You don't feel like you wasted each other's time. You're glad you noticed when you did, so you didn't miss out on what you have now, but it's not as if either of you shortchanged the other in this situation. So, what's the real fear here? Break it down for me. If you're saying you wasted his time, do you really mean that you shouldn't have ever got together with him, or do you think your whole thing ran its course ages ago and you should have ended it then? What's really the problem here? You challenge Karkat. Maybe we shouldn't have been together. Maybe he would have been better off without me, Karkat says quietly. No. Gamzee was a mess back then, for obvious reasons. He's still a fucked up person, but he's way better off than he was. That's you point out. Maybe he could have recovered on his own, Karkat mumbles. You give Karkat a flat look. Yes, maybe Gamzee could have pulled himself up out of the psychological black hole that was the then still reasonably fresh murder of his ancestor and execution of his ancestor, as well as the following haunting from his ancestor and the unwilling induction into being a balancer and all the secretive shit that entails. Yeah, Gamzee absolutely should have just got over all that by himself. Maybe he could have done it through the magical medium of song, interpretive dance, and the spontaneous appearance of sparkling rainbows. Yeah, no way.
Gamzee absolutely needs professional help that will actually call him out on his shit, as does Dave, but all they get is approval to keep doing their job. So, barring professional help, all Gamzee had was his friends and Karkat. So, as deeply unsettling, creepy, and unstable as Gamzee can be, he absolutely is way better than he was, and far better than you'd expect him to be given the circumstances. Okay, fine, I helped a little back at the beginning, but I've obviously not been helping for a long time, and I don't know if he's been helping me for a long time either, Karkat concedes. For the sake of not getting distracted on a tangential point, you're going to ignore Karkat's qualifier that he helped a little and instead focus on the rest of it. Sure, let's say that I can somehow magically know that you got to the point with Gamzee where you couldn't help him get any better than he is now as his Moirail 2 years ago. So what? You ask. 2 years. Had to be 2? Karkat sighs. Don't get off topic or I'll stick you to the ceiling. You warn him. You'll do it too. Then I should have broken up with him then. Instead, I wasted that amount of time. Karkat insists. Cool, how are you supposed to know that you got to that point? You shoot back immediately. I don't know, you picked that arbitrary point. He snaps at you. All points are arbitrary, you say. You're arbitrary, Karkat argues. You look at the ceiling for a moment and then at Karkat. You're still willing to put him up there. I don't know how long it was, but it happened at some point and I should have known. Karkat tells you, getting back on track in order to avoid being on the ceiling. Right? So you don't know when it happened, which means it's really hard to know when. So if that's the case, how is that your fault? You ask him. Because I should have been paying more attention, because then I would have noticed. Instead, I was selfishly and stupidly sticking my fingers in my ears and loudly yelling that everything was fine. I was wasting his time just for my own comfort. He tells you. You consider this for a moment, but seeing as how it's dumb as shit, you don't consider it for any longer than that. So, to get this straight, your argument for why you're wasting Gamzee's time is that there was a point where you were no longer useful to him, and you should have broken up with him then, even though you still can't, even now, pick out when that point was. But you should have known somehow by presumably being a better person, despite still not knowing when that point was, even when you're looking back after that breakup. Is that about right? You ask Karkat, who glares at you. In fact, you go on, you've also not considered that Gamzee didn't break things off with you sooner, even though realistically he should have known better than you when that supposed moment in time was. But him choosing to not do that somehow magically doesn't matter. Also, you've not mentioned what point in time he stopped being helpful to you, or why that doesn't mean that Gamzee was wasting your time and is a terrible person. I guess that honor is just reserved for you. You know what? Fuck you. Karkat hisses in your face and gets to his feet. You can't blame yourself for things you had no way of knowing back then. Were you supposed to just ditch him the moment things stopped being perfect for just him or just you? How could you have separated that out from regular lulls in relationships? And even after your breakup, even after your whole thing with him stopped working, it doesn't mean it was a waste of time. I'm firmly in the camp of people who don't like Gamzee. I'm not saying he's the best person on the ship and throwing a parade for you two having been together at all. All I'm saying is, obviously what you had worked for the both of you at some point, and maybe you needed to be together for the time you were. You didn't waste shit. Neither of you did. You insist. Karkat hits the button to open your door, but you hold the door shut psionically. Karkat growls and turns around at you, teary-eyed again. Well, what the hell am I supposed to do then, huh? Since you have all the answers? Karkat snaps at you. I don't know! You shout back. Oh, great! Karkat yells, throwing his hands in the air. You can just be sad that it's over without having to be some horrible monster who ruined everything. You can have feelings about what he hid from you or how your relationship worked without making either of you out to be the bad guy. You can be upset that you didn't see something was wrong sooner without demanding that your past self psychically know shit that maybe you needed to go through this whole thing to see. You're not the worst person in the universe, KK. You've never been that.
You insist, and Karkat leans against the door, his forehead against it and his shoulders drawn up so you can't see anything of his face. If I'd have seen it, I could have done something. I could have been better off now than I am. I could have... Karkat trails off. You wonder, only in the privacy of your head and not out loud, if he's wondering if he could have been single when you broke up with Aradia. If things between you and him could have happened instead of with you and Dave. It could have gone that way. If Karkat had been living alone, then you'd have absolutely gone and stayed with him instead of Rose moving out and you moving into her place with Dave. You wouldn't have got so close to Dave, and you might not have caught the whole Vicari thing. So much would have been different. But you also know that if Karkat is thinking that, he's not going to verbalize it. He'd think he's being selfish. Because it would be him assuming that you'd be his Moirail and that you'd have preferred that to this version of time where you're dating Dave and really happy about it. He doesn't want to take that from you, but you bet he's wondering what if all the same. You're doing your best, you say softly, instead of voicing any of that. Yeah, and look how well that works out. My best is shit, Karkat says bitterly. I think your best is pretty great. I think you are too, you tell him quietly, dangerously genuinely. I'm not, Karkat says softly, and turns around so he's leaning against your closed door. I get how it could feel like you didn't matter. You showing up to your hive and his stuff being gone has to be a gut punch. I get that, you say. It's hypocritical as shit, because if his stuff hadn't been gone, then I'd have gone in there and packed up all of my shit, and he'd have that moment instead of me. I can't be mad at him for doing the exact thing I was going there to do, Karkat says as he stares a hole in your floor. Can you be hypocritical for feeling something? It's not like you're saying that you're mad that he beat you to it and how dare he. You just feel shitty about it, right? You ask. You're not sure, but you think that's right. Isn't it only that your thinking can be hypocritical? That you can have a double standard, but emotionally you just feel hurt or mad or whatever? Maybe those emotions come from hypocritical thinking, but you're right, aren't you? No, I think you're probably right. I can hear it in my head, too. The whole idea that none of this shit applies to Gamzee. It wouldn't apply to anyone else, but when it's me, obviously it's all proof that I'm the worst, that I fucked up. I might as well call up Cankry or Signless to hear them say the same shit about themselves, because it sounds so stupid when they say it, but oh no, when it's in my head, it's divine and flawless logic dispensed from the heavens into my think pan by a god who personally hates me. Karkat groans. At least you can hear that it's wrong, you say, optimistically. You know Karkat's probably never going to get away from thinking like this completely, but he has got better at seeing what he's doing as he gets older. Then again, Signless clearly hasn't grown out of it, so who knows. It still feels true. Fuck, I'm sorry. I'm sorry for being an asshole to you. You're just trying to... Karkat starts, but you wave his apology off. It's old news, and you don't care anyway. Karkat drops it and sighs, pushing away from the door and looking at it. I should go say sorry to Dave. I'm all over the place, and he was being sweet, and I completely dissolved into hysteria on him. Karkat phrases and looks at you. I shouldn't be doing this. Doing what? You ask. This whole thing was way too close to pale, if not outright in it, and don't even try to say that it wasn't. Karkat says as he gestures rapidly between you both, as if you needed the concept of you and him pointed out repeatedly. And? You say flatly. And you're dating Dave who was being so nice to me, who's letting me live in his hive, Karkat rants, ignoring how you mutter that it's your hive too. I can't just take advantage of his kindness and then be like this with you. First of all, shut up. Second of all, he doesn't care. We've already talked about this. Me and him, I mean. He doesn't care that I'm pale for you. He doesn't care that you are as well. The point he cares about is the point where you go, Solix, break up with Dave so I can date you. You tell him. I wouldn't do that! Karkat squawks in horror. Yeah, I know. Dave knows that too. So, I repeat, he doesn't care. If it makes you uncomfortable or upset, then I care, but otherwise, not so much. Honestly, I think Dave would much prefer me being in here and talking you down from all of that instead of standing there
standing out there as you cry about your pajamas that he got you as I refuse to do anything to help. You point out. Okay, fine, but even if he's fine with that in theory, it doesn't mean that he's going to actually... Karkat freezes, suddenly silent. Karkat? You ask uncertainly. Am I actually really worried about somehow tricking you into jeopardizing your relationship with Dave, or do I just still feel shitty and am jumping on a new thing that I could say is my fault so I can make the way I feel make sense? Karkat asks suspiciously. Oh, wow, that's a painfully direct hit. A Karkat on Karkat attack right to the jugular, and what's worse is you're pretty goddamn sure he's right, too. I didn't say it, you can't be mad at me, you say quickly. Fuck me, I am, aren't I? Ugh. Okay, obviously I don't want to disrupt your relationship, and it's new and I care about you both. I don't want to step on anyone's toes. That is true, but I don't think that needed to be a huge crisis where I'm immediately the bad guy, he says, his tone and his body language weary. That seems fair. Look, you've had a pretty emotional day, and packing up your stuff after a breakup sucks. You're allowed to feel shitty. That doesn't mean you did anything wrong. I can go tell Dave that you're fine, and you can hide in your new respite block until you feel better, or you can hang out with us and distract yourself, whatever you want. You offer him. Thanks, Karkat says softly. You're pretty sure he doesn't want to talk any longer, at least, or not this deeply. He's been through a fair few emotional revelations in a short space of time, not to mention the whole thing with packing up all of his things and finding that Gamzee got there first. It's been a hell of a day to be Karkat. Eventually, Karkat nods to himself and leaves your room, since you stopped holding the door shut. You get to witness a pretty awkward conversation between him and Dave, where Dave is very plainly worried that he did something to deeply upset Karkat, and Karkat is trying to reassure Dave that he is in fact a sane man. The end result is that Karkat lets Dave show him where all of his boxes are in case he wants to look through them, and then elects to spend a good deal of time in his respite block alone. Karkat has dinner with you both later, and it's nice, but again, Karkat is pretty clearly burnt out for now, so it's not long before he retreats again. I am now also going to retreat for just a moment. It's break time. I'll be back in a few minutes. Whee!
Hi. Kind of a short break, but that's because I'm excited. Have a good night, Rain! You're my friend! Alright. Let's get right back into it. I don't want to waste any time. Nice. Hold on. Okay. The next morning, you get up in your own time. Despite having the day off earlier, thanks to that migraine from hell, you actually have the day off. You feel a little guilty about it, but it's not your fault you were sick, and other people have work planned for today. You can't just show up there and throw the whole staffing balance out. Dave leaves before you get up, and you think Carcat is still asleep in his respite block, which isn't unusual for him. If he was awake for a lot of the night, worrying and going in circles in his head, then obviously he'd need to sleep in longer. Still, you find yourself a little lonely and bored, as well as unproductive. After a while spent playing games on your palm husk, you cave and magically call your ancestor and ancestor to you. They're not things for your entertainment, but all the same, you want to talk to them. "What's up?" Matuna asks as Sai drifts down to your bed and carefully assembles himself by memory into something like a troll shape. "I don't know, just wanted to talk, I guess. What have you two been up to?" you ask. "He's been all around signless, and..." Matuna pauses as Sai shapeshifts a little to give himself Vantis horns for a second and points at them. "I've just been fucking around, not doing much." "Fair enough." You nod. It's probably hard to do much else when you're a ghost and the number of people who can see you is limited. Sai makes a curious noise and holds a hand up above his eyes like he's looking for something, and then his hair shifts to look like Bro's for just a moment. "I haven't seen that asshole anywhere," Matuna says slowly. "Me neither, really. Not around work or here. It's just been when Dave's dragged him over for balancing." You agree, and Psionic makes a thoughtful noise. "This is nice. You still feel unproductive, but it's nice." You look at Matuna, and an idea slowly dawns on you. If you're wanting to be productive and get your shit sorted out, then you have time now and a helpful audience to survey. "Hey, can I ask you two something? I need to know if this is just me or if other people are weird about this, or maybe if it is me, then is it a captor thing?" You say slowly. Psionic gives you a curious look, but sits up a little straighter, and his whole body language is very obviously indicating that he is attentively listening to you. Matuna seems curious too, so you figure you'll go ahead and speak, since they're both waiting. "So, Carcat..." Wait, maybe I should go back a little for Sai. Humans, right? They're pretty, sexually dimorphic. As in, Dave and Jade have different... You vaguely wave a hand at your own crotch, as if that helps. "Dude, we're invisible. You think we've not been through people's hives and seen humans naked? He knows, man. He knows." Matuna cackles. You're not sure how you feel about that, but you're gonna keep that to yourself. Okay, well, humans also have the thing of not being either gender or being the wrong one for the body they have. You explain. Like June, she's trans. They had that on Alternia too. Shit ain't new. Matuna points out. Yeah, I know, but medically it's a bigger deal for humans than it is for trolls. Humans have surgery for that. The point is that you trail off, trying to think of a way to explain this that doesn't make you sound terrible.
I know that it's a big deal for some people, especially people like June, who go through a lot to make things how they feel they should be, to get that shit to match. I know it's a big deal. They're not bored and doing it for fun. It's sincere, but at the same time, I also... Okay, we're all nerds or gamers or whatever, right? You ask. Got those elite gamer genes! Matuna cheers and Sai grins. Right, that's a part of who we are, but it's not everything. It's not a big deal, even though obviously all three of us are a big deal in terms of how great we are. That's not in question. I just always kind of figured that gender was like that. A thing we say we are, and that's not really real, and is basically a thing you picked yourself or fell into, and some people are really into it for some reason. But obviously that's not how it works. That's not what June was doing, or any of the other trans people I know. The whole thing felt like some inside joke that everyone else had, but that doesn't match up with how much it obviously isn't to everyone else. Carquette said that's not how everyone else thinks. Is that... You look at them both, imploringly. Psionic makes a sort of so-so gesture with his hand, but Matuna shakes his head adamantly. What? No. Did I drop you on your head too much as a wiggler? It's not like that at all! Matuna insists loudly. Psionic and Matuna look at each other in surprise, so you quickly relay what Matuna said for Sai's benefit. Your ancestor makes a go-on motion to Matuna, and you figure you'll start repeating what Matuna says for him. You want their collective opinion, not two separate opinions given simultaneously. That isn't how gender works. What the fuck? You really looked at me and thought that? Matuna demands. I don't know what you mean, you say, after repeating his words for Sai. You fucking saw how I dressed and shit when I was alive, Matuna shouts, throwing his hands in the air. Unfortunately, yes. You wore whatever you wanted whenever you wanted it. Didn't matter if it didn't match what you were doing, or even matched with anything else, or if it was eye-searingly neon, or hideously patterned. You list off. I dressed like a girl a bunch of the time! He yells. He sure as shit didn't dress like any of the girls you know. Kanaya has far more taste, and the rest of your female friends did too. Well, maybe except Terezi, but even then. Matuna seemingly catches your expression and yells at you a second time. Because I was a girl a bunch of the time, you fucking moron! He shouts. What do you mean you were a girl some of the time? You ask, in a small voice, and Psionic slaps his hands into his face and shakes his head. Matuna floats up in the air to yell incoherently for a second, and then turns around to face you angrily. How the... You didn't fucking notice? He shouts. I thought you just wore what you wanted, you insist. I did, but you didn't... Sometimes I put shit on that I wore the day before, and someone seeing me as a guy would make me want to rip my skin off, so I had to wear different shit. I'd be fucked up about it! He yells, waving his hands. I thought you were just overwhelmed with clothes sometimes, like how Nepeta can't stand tags in her clothes, or it was just your mood. I know I got pissed or upset about shit all the time, and it wasn't anything to do with the actual thing. You protest. And sometimes I'd call myself a guy, and sometimes a girl? Matuna goes on. Yeah, and I'm the Empress and God at Mortal Kombat, but I'm not a woman or a literal deity. I didn't think you were being literal. You never told me to call you anything different, did you? You ask as fear fills you. Matuna groans and shakes his head. You hope the word you want there is his, and you've not been wrong all of this time. No, I didn't, because a lot of the time it's right any fucking way, and unless I was really dysphoric for shit, I didn't give a fuck what people called me, and people ain't psychic, Matuna argues. I thought you just did what you wanted because gender isn't a thing and doesn't matter, you say in a tiny and helpless voice. Matuna's shoulders sag and he sighs. Your ancestor drifts back down to your bed and looks at you despairingly. It matters, man. It's not like I've had space in my head to feel it since... Matuna shudders all over, and for a split second you see the ghostly after images of wires over him. But sometimes I'd be both, or one or the other, usually both, but when it was one, then being seen as the other was just...
It physically hurts. Like, really fucking hurts in your soul. I'm sorry. I didn't know, you whisper. How are you so stupid? You lived with him your whole life until he was taken from you, and you didn't know this fundamental part of his identity. You just assumed that he dressed how he did because Matuna was too cool to care about what other people expected of him, and that his distress was general Matuna bad think sponge times. Come on, like, fuck, if I called you two girls, that'd bother you, Matuna insists. Not really, you say, after repeating it for Sai. Sai makes an uncertain noise in that so-so hand gesture again. But it'd bother you? You ask Matuna, unwilling to assume anything anymore. Sometimes! Sometimes not! Sometimes I'm both! He shouts. You know what? Given the whole captor thing, I shouldn't even be surprised. What about you? Good luck getting this across through mime when I'm apparently too goddamn stupid to get the basic concepts even through speech and a lifetime of experience. You say bitterly as you turn your attention from Matuna to Psionic. Psionic thinks for a moment, his eyes narrowed as he rests his chin in his hand. He really is getting more troll-shaped more often, and his movements are looking a lot more natural and not like he's consciously repeating something he's seen before. You're happy for him. Psionic reaches for you, but doesn't touch you yet, his hand hovering near your shoulder. He makes a questioning sound and points at your eyes and then his, then looks at his hand that's almost touching you. You want to show me something? Like you did before with Signless and Disciple? You guess, and Psionic nods. He's asking your permission. If you can make this make sense, then by all means, please. You agree. Psionic touches you. It's not like you stop being where you are and seeing what you already are. It's more like you're imagining something, visualizing it in your head. Except Psionic is the one visualizing it for you. What he imagines in your head for you is this. You imagine that you have a cup, like the kind you get at movie theaters or the ones you have by your bed if you keep water there overnight because you don't like how water tastes after too much exposure to the air. The tall kind of cup with a lid and a straw. Yours is sealed with the cap of the cup firmly on. In your mind, Psionic is standing next to you, the same kind of generic cup in hand. He looks around and you see Signless and Disciple there, far younger and alive. Disciple has a sip of her drink, and as she does, the semi-see-through straw shows red. You can see that her lips and tongue are stained red, and as she moves and talks to Signless, there are certain gestures and ways she talks that make her glimmer red a little. By contrast, Signless is stained a deep blue, and when he pauses in speaking, though you can't hear his words, his drink shows a deep blue through his straw. Okay, so is this metaphor that you can't really see into what anyone else has, but you can see how they show it, or something? You ask slowly. Psionic nods, and with what is clearly a little focus on Psionic's part, you get to see more people. A troll you don't know has a different color entirely, green. Another is a blended purple. You see Matuna, whose straw alternates red and blue, and sometimes both, like he's got the ship's most intricately poured movie slushie. Matuna is lit up with patterns of red and blue together, then abruptly one or the other. They fight and clash over him like the garish clothes he used to wear when he was alive. You look at Matuna, the real one, and it clicks in your head. For a moment, the imagined scene that Sai is giving you fades. It's not both for you like red and blue makes purple. It's both at the same time separately, you ask him. Matuna's shoulders drop a little, not like he's disappointed, but more like he had been tense and some of that has fallen away. You hope you hadn't been making him feel like he was making it up or making a big deal out of nothing. Just because you don't get this doesn't mean that it's not real. You know it is real. That's why you're so bothered by not getting it. You know that you're not right in thinking that this was as meaningless as a label about your styles or hobbies. It clearly is life and death to a lot of people, but you don't understand that. You don't have that. Yeah, both. Yeah. It's fucking shit, and it's great, and I hate it, and I'm perfect and not sorry, and I never understand me, and I'm exhausting, and fuck, it's, how didn't you know? Matuna sighs that last question out finally, and you hate that he looks a little hurt. I don't know. I don't know what that feels like. I liked that you did whatever you wanted and wore whatever you wanted. I know it meant a lot to you to be expressive and be you. You did what made you happy. You liked skateboarding, and I was never like, what does this do for you and why do you do it? I don't understand. I don't want this. Why would you? Tell me now. Why would I do that? You're you. You're my dance sister. We're family. I never wanted you to be anyone else, so why would I question or try to change anything about you? The only things I wanted to change about you was shit like you leaving your shoes all over the hive, so I was always this close to tripping over them in the dark and breaking my goddamn neck. You never said you didn't feel like a guy or did feel like a girl or both or the other way around or... You never told me. You try to explain. Your throat feels tight, like you might cry. Everyone else seemed to know. I don't want to talk about it. Sometimes I'd see me in something and it'd be like, yes, and sometimes same thing, and fuck, Mituna's hands clench in his hair, and you expect him to bail. He doesn't. He crashes into you instead. You can't hold him like you could when he was alive, but it's not as if he's not there at all. He's staticky and bright against your skin as his thoughts crash into yours like a technicolor wave. Shards of it tumble to the floor of your consciousness, and you get fragments of them as they go. But even as it happens, you can feel psionics still against your mind, and you know somehow that he can see this too. There are flares of emotion that are entirely alien to you. You see Mituna through his own eyes, in front of a mirror or in front of people. You feel how he looks at himself, and even though you can see there's nothing wrong with him, you can also see how he feels impossibly wrong, how his own skin isn't right, his body isn't his, but is at the same time. How changing the way he dresses one day can soothe it, and other days the same thing is like sandpaper on his skin. You see yourself talking about him to Karkat, and you saying he produces no more reaction than his name. But then you make some joke about how the humans he knows are lucky that trolls have dancestors, because if not, then you would win the coolest brother contest. As you say it, you feel this blooming rightness in your chest. Yes, that's me. A puzzle piece perfectly fit in place and being seen true. But then someone else some other day calling you a guy, and it's wrong. The shock that shouldn't be shocking, that someone sees you as a guy when somehow that's the last thing you are. It's like a bucket of ice water on your soul, like being abruptly invisible, like suddenly being in a costume instead of your own clothes and body. He's one or the other or both, and he both understands this shit better than anyone and is the best at it and doesn't understand why the rules change on him all the time. He loves being a strobe light of gender and rolling with what feels right. Everyone else must be so bored compared to him. But also, he hates it, and why does he have to deal with this all the time? Why can't he just be stable in one thing? He'd sell his soul to be static at something, but he'd stab anyone for trying to make him not be him. You can hear yourself tearfully whispering that you didn't know, that you couldn't understand because that's not how it is for you. You're sorry, so sorry. If you'd known, then you'd have done anything to help him not feel wrong when he felt that way. No, Mituna mumbles near your ear. The chaos draws back slightly, and you see yourself and him, younger and alive, in your hive with Biclops' dad in the background. Mituna's form and yours flicker through 1,000 outfits and days, but you're there with him. When you're together and laughing at something, you see Mituna as Mituna. When you're accusing him of being weird or stupid in some fight, it's because of something he did, not who he is. Even when you said something to someone else that made him feel wrong because just then it was the exact wrong word to describe him, it didn't hurt like it did with other people. You couldn't know how he felt every day. You weren't psychic, and he knew you saw him for him. He saw you snarl at people and make them regret it when they made fun of him for how his words didn't come out right, or the stupid swearing or the apologizing. Even the times when you didn't know he'd seen you have his back like that, he knew. He thought you knew about him, that you just rolled with it, the same way you did with everything else about him. You'd talk about his clothes sometimes, so he just figured that you knew and didn't care. I didn't know. I've never felt what you did, at all, ever. Not the good parts or the bad. You say quietly and tearfully as you look up at him. Psionic looks at you both and carefully moves back into your head again. This time, Matuna isn't some imagined Matuna. You know it's the real one. Matuna looks around at everyone, and you can see him putting the metaphor together, too. Psionic pops the lid off of Matuna's cup, and you get the feeling that you can't do that to people, that you can't see into other people's heads or their metaphorical cups, but clearly the three of you are doing shit that normal people can't. Matuna's drink is eye-searingly bright and thick, color streaked and swirled through it. Psionic dips his fingers into Matuna's cup, getting colored slushy on his fingers so one is red and the other is blue. He pops the lid off of his own cup and with his thumb, and you look in. Psionic's isn't anything like Matuna's. It's like a blue energy drink, or more accurately, it's like you had a giant blue energy drink in a cup with loads of ice and drank most of it. What he has is what you get after the ice melts with what remains of that blue energy drink. It's a pale and see-through blue water. Psionic wiggles his fingers and shows you the one that's red from Matuna's slushy and shakes his head. He points at Disciple and shakes his head. He's not that. Matuna has a long sip of his slushy and shifts blue all over. Yeah, man, it's the I'm not fucking that thing, Matuna insists. Psionic laughs and then parrots a cut-up version of Matuna's words. I'm fucking that, Psionic says and grins filthily as he looks at Disciple. Of course, you groan as Matuna hoots with laughter. Psionic nudges your shoulder and holds you up his blue finger. He's getting back on track. He points down at his drink and makes an uncertain noise. So you kind of are, but it's not exactly the same? You guess. Demi-boy. Man. Demi-man sounds like, fuck, backwards? Matuna frowns. Like a demigod, but the other way somehow? You guess. That! Matuna laughs and points at you. Psionic shakes his head and waves his hand between you, like he's trying to get this back on track. He motions between his cup and Signless, and then yours and the imagined people around you. I think he's asking if you ever get the yes that or not that thing, Matuna says, and Psionic nods. You guess if you can understand Matuna in your head, then he can. I don't think so, you say slowly. So what if... Matuna hurries off and grabs one of the imagined people that Psi made and pulls them back to you. Matuna stands them in front of you and speaks, but when he does, the imagined person speaks too. Hello, gentlemen, they say to you and Psionic. Psionic gives a sure whatever kind of shrug, as do you. Matuna tries again, speaking and making the person speak too. Hello, ladies, they say this time. Psionic wrinkles his nose a little, looking a little displeased, but altogether not that bothered. See, that'd make me feel weird because I think they're making fun of me, you tell Matuna. So, Matuna pauses as the person speaks with him at the same time. What I mean is that no one's ever looked at me and been like, a girl. So if they're doing that, I'm going to assume they're either trying to insult me by deliberately calling me something people don't mistake me for, or they're being misogynistic by saying that I'm like a girl, or they're being racist or casteist in a, all trolls/golds look the same to me kind of way. You say, slowly. Hey, make this one a human, Psi, Matuna says as he shakes the imagined person. After a good few shakes, the person is suddenly Dave. Yeah, cool, that'll work. Pretend he doesn't know you just met, or whatever, Matuna tells you, with Dave echoing it. This is weird, you mumble. Psionic makes a gesture that you're pretty sure is telling you to humor Matuna and go with it. So, you're Solix and you're Psionic, Dave says. It's crazy, she looks so much like you. The imagined Dave that Matuna is controlling gestures to you when he says she. It feels weird, but only because you know that Dave doesn't call you that, so again, it feels like he's trying to get at you. But you pretend that he doesn't know, that this is the first time he's met you. It's helped by the fact that Dave suddenly looks back at you with a look of theatrical mortification that's copied right from Matuna's face. Wait, shit, fuck, are you not a girl? Oh man, I'm sorry, I'm so new to trolls, I keep getting it wrong. I thought you were a girl, sorry. You're a guy, you're a man. Man, I'm sorry.
he apologizes. And that's not exactly how Dave talks, but it's believable that he could make a mistake like that when he was new to the ship. Lean into the idea. Do you feel weird about that? The idea that he was making fun of you is explained off by him being a different species and new to being around trolls, and he seems sincere about apologizing. I didn't feel anything either way. It doesn't mean anything. If he's not being an asshole, then I don't care that he saw me as a girl, and I don't feel any kind of way about him seeing me as a guy. I don't have that yes, that feeling that you showed me, even at Sai's kind of apathetic level, and I don't have the not that reaction either. I know this shit is real for you two. I feel it. I can understand it when it's... You're powerless to explain properly. Psionic motions to his pale blue liquid in his cup and the highly saturated mix in Matuna's. Yeah, I get the metaphor when it's color. I can see how a mix that's blended is different from Matuna's. I can see how someone can be none of these and be something else, or one or the other. I get that you can see someone and see that they're like you somehow, or feel wrong when someone thinks that you've got some color that you don't in there. But you look at them helplessly. You don't feel any of that. And if the two of them hadn't shown you how it feels through metaphor or through actual shards of feelings, you don't think you'd have got it at all. You've never had this. You don't care when people call you a guy. You wouldn't care about Dave saying that you're his boyfriend, and you didn't feel relief when he chose partner instead, even when you take the cowboy joke out of it. You pry the lid off of your cup, pushing it and the straw aside to look inside. It's empty. You don't have anything in here, not even water. There's no watered-down version of something else like Sai has, no Technicolor remix like Matuna, nothing entirely different or some kind of blend. It's nothing. I don't have anything, you say quietly. You don't have anything to recognize yourself in someone else. Nothing in you prickles with wrongness at being called the wrong thing, because in the spreadsheet of data that is your soul, there's no information in that particular cell. You can't get a positive or negative outcome from any equation that uses it, because there's nothing there. The most you're going to get is hash ref. Psionic pats your arm gently, but you're not upset. Or maybe you are. You don't know how you feel just yet. There are people like that, man. It's cool. Matuna assures you, and it's so weird when he's trying to be careful with you and not the other way around. Why don't I have anything? Why do you get all of it, huh? Did you just use up all the gender DNA that we got from Sai and left none for me? You accused him. It's all mine, bitch! Matuna cackles, holding his cup aloft. Psionic pokes you in the arm, shows you his watered-down cup, and treats you to a brief, no, that you think he cut up from some movie somewhere. Yeah, Matuna definitely didn't inherit that from Psionic. I feel stupid, you mumble and fold your arms. Stupid is a somewhat charged word in the captor hive. The pair of you would call each other stupid for, silly mistakes, usually in games, or for making an especially ill-thought-out line of decisions. Plugged something into the wrong port on your hustop? Stupid. Left shoes in the hallway? That's a stupid place to put them, idiot. But not at other times. Not when everyone else could regulate their emotions just fine and you two couldn't. When you were upset over something normal people wouldn't be upset about, or if either of you misread what someone else meant or a social situation you were in. When stupid is something that someone would call either of you because you weren't neurotypical, because of things outside of your control. That's when it wasn't a thing that was okay. It wasn't okay for someone to tell you that you were stupid because you were so depressed that your think sponge literally didn't form memories right and you'd forget things you'd been told. It wasn't okay for someone to call Matuna stupid because his mouth ran away without him sometimes, or because he'd act weird. Anyone implying that either of you were stupid or less than for shit that was part of you wasn't going to fly, and it didn't fly in your hive either. You never used that word against each other about meaningful shit, and neither of you tolerated you calling yourselves names like that. But you feel stupid because everyone else gets this, and yet again, you're not normal, not the same as everyone. You can't do or feel things like everyone else because you're weird in a whole new way. And yeah, you feel fucking stupid for not understanding this. for not getting what Matuna was going through, for only catching on a hint of what you might be missing when you saw the transgender humans that you know going through all they did to get to somewhere better for themselves. And even then, you still couldn't puzzle this out alone. You had to be spoon-fed the answer like a stupid, dumb, broken... Don't fucking start! Matuna snarls at you. You weren't saying that aloud, but he can read you. What am I supposed to think? I've been making dumb... You start. Shut up! Matuna cuts in. Mistakes this whole time. I missed you. I thought this was all as important as fashion or something, and I didn't have the think sponge to be like, maybe I'm wrong. Shut up! He screeches at you. Psionic steps between you both, reaching out to put a hand on your shoulder and another on Matuna's. He looks at you, and a feeling of, it's going to be okay, lays over you like a warm blanket. In fact, since this place is imaginary, it becomes literal pretty much as soon as you thought that. Psionic holds a finger out in front of you, and a line starts to trail from his claw tip like a reading on a life support machine. It goes along with a little rumble and then snarls up into a scribbled ball, but as you watch, it starts to untangle itself, and eventually it's a smooth line again. You feel upset and shitty now because this is a lot. But it'll be better later when you've had time to pick it apart, and your before isn't really different from your after. Nothing changes except you knowing. He turns from you and pulls away, so he's just got a fingertip touching you. He has his back to you and his other hand on Matuna. He communicates with him quietly through garbled sound and probably the same kind of psychic touch that he did to you. It's too quiet for you to hear what's being said, but you notice something else. At first, you think Sai has got taller, but you realize, after a moment, that you and Matuna have got smaller. Looking around Sai, you can see that Matuna looks about 11, and you feel like you're probably around there too. Your word choice dragged you both back to being kids, made you both feel small and awful for being different. You can't even complain. You don't want this to happen. That's why you had been avoiding thinking about it. You've got enough problems, both psychologically and practically. You don't need more. You don't need to find out that you somehow missed the point when they were handing gender out and didn't get any. You don't need another thing abnormal about you. But you're really gonna throw that in Matuna's face? He clearly dealt with this his whole life, and you never noticed. And his problems were worse than yours anyway. Oh, and he's dead, and you're not! You should be grateful, but instead you're just sad. And, yeah, you feel stupid. The imagined scene around you fades, leaving you sitting on your bed feeling kind of shitty, with Sai and Matuna both looking at you. You good? Matuna asks anxiously. Yes, no, yes and no. You groan, and Psionic nods his head like, yes, we've all been there. I don't want to think about anything, you tell them. Matuna nods and leans in to bump his forehead to yours. You close your eyes out of habit, and as soon as the staticky feeling of him fades, you open your eyes to find yourself alone again. You only just catch the last trace of hazy black fog slipping through your floor. So, when I said... when I said that I'm predictable... Do you understand? You understand, right? I'm the most predictable motherfucker in the world. 'Cause here's the thing. I'm agender ? I kind of just don't think about it. It's a little bit different in that for me, I do get the not that. There are definitely things that I'm not. I don't know if there's any things that I am. even necessarily get euphoria from my pronouns. They're just the ones that don't suck. But at the same time, just the general concept of, like, this is roughly agender, probably. You could describe it as this. Like, Smiles and Captor Kinney. I deeply enjoyed that. On top of which, like, on top of the he's just like me for real, I love Captor family feelings all of the time. And getting to voice Matuna is very fun. And man, I just love them so much. Let's look at what my comment was on this. It's probably on page 2. oh, gender times for Solix? Gender times for Solix for 2,000 years? Oh, gender times for Solix for 2,000 years! And it's true. Just try on new pronouns in the moment on people. That makes things click into place sometimes. I seen it. You know, probably. I mean, in terms of how I voice them, definitely on account of it's the excitability factor. Like, a lot of Matuna's dialogue is energetic and, like, hyped up. So I'm combining what I perceive as probably a bit of volume control issues with my own volume control issues. Which kind of just compounds and makes him shouting all the time. But it's because of that energy, you know? Whereas with Carcat, like, I think there's also just the kind of quantity factor insofar as he gets a lot more dialogue because he's a much more major character. And also the fucking yapper, the fucking rambler. He's a Vantis. We know this. And so he does still get there, especially when he's, like, feeling a lot. But there's also a lot more opportunity for times when that's not the case. That's what I think is going on. They also occupy pretty similar places on my voice chart thing. So that's fun for me. Jesus Christ. I just love this chapter. I'm very happy. Here's the thing. Part of me is going to be sad that I don't ever voice this again. But I'm happy because it went good. I didn't fuck it up. I really, really love voicing crying, voicing Matuna, voicing Solix, having Captor family times, having Soulcat times. There was Soulcat times in here.
And it was about gender in a way that I can kind of point at my blurbo and be like, he's just like me for real. I've often said that this fic was engineered in a lab to appeal to me. This chapter was engineered in a lab to appeal to me. Even more so. It ticks all my boxes. Like... Now I'm comparing that to that list that I kind of just gave to my own fic that's in the works. Soul Cat, yes. They're even pale. Captor family times, yes. Crying, yes. The only thing that's missing is gender times, but it's not as relevant to that particular plot. But, you know, I can kind of word of God that, like, if it was in a different setting where that was kind of a thing that they thought about, that Solix would probably have some kind of non-binary going on. Probably, maybe. Gender is just not a big deal, you guys. This is clearly gender is just not a big deal, and that's obviously how it is universally. And definitely not something that I, Solix Captor, am completely missing. It's okay. What's fun is that you could kind of interpret that as being like, he's an any pronouns ass bitch, but he literally doesn't, like, he cares so little about it that not even that it's any pronouns, but, like, he doesn't even care enough to change them, really. But, like, nothing is technically wrong. Well, anyway. Yeah. Thank you for coming to my favorite chapter. I love my sillies. I love my sillies so much. He's so sillies. Guys, I love him. Oh my god. Yeah. Yeah, it turns out that, in the moment when they picked it, or at least when Dave picked it, he leaned into it for the joke reasons. But he was also right on the money. He hit the nail on the head on that one. Okay, I'm gonna get the... It's not even 6 yet. That's different. That's different. I'm gonna get the VOD uploading.
It is for you, dingus! It's called Time Zones! Yeah, no, Jesus Christ. These last two were super hella fucking long. And this one is not, but... Oh. Perchance, might could. But yeah, this... Time-wise, today's stream was less of a deal, but it's a big deal to me for, funny silly. I like them reasons. And I'm very happy with today's stream. So I'm gonna get the VOD uploading, and I'll catch you guys later. Have a wonderful night and or day and or night and or day. Bye, y'all. Wee.